Today's podcast is sponsored by lighthousepowerbusiness.com.
June 30th, David Green. At the crossroads of right versus popular stands a man who can make a difference. His eyes closed, David Green sat alone in his office, deep in prayer. This may be an atypical scenario for the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise like Hobby Lobby, which is owned and operated by the Green family. But prayer had been a vital part of the fabric of Green's life since his childhood. Growing up a pastor's son, he had seen for himself how God moved through prayer and principled living. There, in the quiet, Green called to mind memories of the many times over his lifetime God had answered impossible prayers. Today, perhaps more than ever, he needed to remember. Green found himself entangled in a ferocious legal battle and boxed his way from the Oklahoma U.S. District Court all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and the controversy was still alive and well. For more than 2 years, Green and his family had been fighting to defend deeply held Christian values, foundational to their lives and business. He said, "It's amazing how God has blessed us beyond our comprehension. We see ourselves as stewards, not owners. This isn't ours, it belongs to God." With more than 900 debt-free stores nationwide, Hobby Lobby provides more than 32,000 jobs. It generates over $4.6 billion in annual revenue and dedicates half of the corporate profit each year to kingdom purposes. So the stakes that Green faced as he prayed that day were significant. The problem: in 2010, the Affordable Care Act mandated that all United States companies provide 20 forms of contraception free of charge to all employees, 4 of which would terminate pregnancy after conception. To Green and his family, to support any form of birth control that would end a life after the moment of conception was unthinkable. It also violated the biblical principles which their company bylaws mandated them to uphold. There were 4 of the contraceptives that we could not agree with because we knew it would take life, Green said. We had to go against our government. We didn't want to, but we felt we had to. The government warned that if Hobby Lobby did not comply with this mandate, the government would assess the company a fine of $1.3 million per day for every day it was in violation. Unwilling to compromise his position, Green decided to take the issue to the Supreme Court and fought for his deeply held principles rather than cave in. It's our rights that are being infringed upon to require us to do something against our conscience, said Green. All the things we do, all our behavior, should let others know that we are living by and operating in biblical principles. Knowing there was a possibility of losing the family business in the legal battle, Green called a family meeting to discuss the risks involved, and everyone agreed to the process. We believe that the principles that are taught scripturally are what we should operate our lives by, and so we cannot be part of taking life, explained Hobby Lobby President Steve Green, David Green's son. At the end of a long, treacherous legal battle, Green's prayers and uncompromising journey were rewarded when the court ruled 5-4 in favor of Hobby Lobby and the religious freedom of Christian business owners in America. The Supreme Court granted a landmark victory for religious liberty on June 30th, 2014 in Burwell v. Hobby Lobby Stores, Incorporated, ruling that individuals do not lose their religious freedom when they open a family business. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands always. Deuteronomy 11:1. How can you approach the battles you find yourself in today? At the crossroads of right versus popular stands a man who can make a difference.
Hello, men. Today is June the 30th, and our story is about David Green. I could probably talk about David through this whole challenge, and very few of us would actually know who he is. But if I said the name of the company that he and his family founded, you would all know who I'm talking about. David Green and his family are the founders of Hobby Lobby. And today's story is a remarkable one in that David and his family had deep convictions about the things that they believed true about their family business. And they weren't willing to compromise on those things. They were so committed to their principles that they had a court case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. They fortunately won that battle that went to the Supreme Court. But the principles in this story are significant, and they're valuable not only because of what David did in standing up for what he believed the scriptures taught, but the challenge to fight for the things that matter to us because they matter to God. When was the last time we really thought through what maybe arena in life has God put us in because there's a battle that needs to be fought, and He's assigned us to fight that battle? That was the case with David and his family. And they were willing to do it. They weren't willing to compromise. They weren't willing to change their convictions to appease people. And so my challenge and my takeaway for all of us as we've watched this story is this. Maybe God has placed you in a place where you don't understand the ramifications of the battle that needs to be fought, but yet you're the one that God's called on to fight that battle. The challenge is this. In God's strength and with God's grace, you can take the battle as far as it needs to go. Here's a good reminder for us. Don't be intimidated. Don't allow the enemy to bully you. If God has called you to fight and stand up for something, God will be with you every step of the way. So that's our challenge, men. Let's identify the place that God's called us to stand up. Let's identify the arena that we're called to fight in and be willing to take the fight as far as it needs to go so that God will be honored and God will be glorified. God bless you. Have a great day.
Today's podcast is sponsored by LighthousePowerBusiness.com. Get your free strategy session valued at $1,000. Get expert advice and take your business to the next level. Visit LighthousePowerBusiness.com to schedule your session today.